Okay, this is chapter 23 of The Night Singer. 23. Hannah filled 2 chipped mugs with coffee and added a splash of milk to one. She tried to ignore Eric's conceited smile. They had been having a good time until he suddenly brought up her father. Again. It felt like she had become his hobby project, the broken cop who needed to be fixed. The only problem was that she wasn't broken, or at least not in the way he seemed to think. She also doubted that laying bare her private life to him would make her feel the least bit better. She slowly carried the mugs back to their table. The coffee sloshed over the edge of the cup as she put it down in front of Eric, but she let him deal with the mess. As she waited for her coffee to cool down, she called Lena's mother, Ulrika. Eric had already had a brief conversation with her father, Gabriel, but they needed to go through the evening with both parents. I understand the Forslund family came over to your house for a barbecue on Tuesday. How long did they stay? The times Ulrika responded with Rebecca's version of events. She confirmed that Joel and Molly had gone home around 9, Rebecca and Petrie a few hours later. Did anything unusual happen that evening? No, we just ate and talked and nothing. It was nice, but it feels so awful now considering everything with Joel. How did he seem that evening? The same as ever. The kids snuck away as soon as they could. He and Lena went into the kitchen to draw. We'll need to talk to Lena too. Absolutely, Ulrika replied as though she were giving Hannah permission. The fact was that Lena was over 15 and she wasn't a suspect. That meant they could talk to her without her parents' consent. All Hannah needed was her phone number. Once she had it, she thanked Ulrika and hung up. Her daughter, Ulrika had said, was at school. Hannah drank a few sips of her coffee before dialing Lena's number. She felt Eric's eyes on her the whole time, but she ignored him. Oh, I'm glad you answered, Hannah said, introducing herself as a police officer. Are you at school? Yes, but I'm on my way home. If you wait there, we can give you a lift, said Hannah. Why? The question was no more than a whisper. We need to talk to you about Joel. Lena released her anxiety in a sigh. I've been thinking I should get in touch with you, she said. Why is that? Can we talk about this later? Hannah had full understanding for why Lena might not want to say whatever it was over the phone. Some things were just easier to talk about in person. Hannah herself wasn't particularly fond of phone calls, but she always did whatever was necessary when she was at work. We need to go, she said to Eric. I got that. Eric drained his cup and got to his feet. I'll drive, said Hannah, not simply because she knew Uland better than Eric, but also because he was a little too willing to stick to the speed limit. It was the only part of him that seemed to diverge from a stereotypical youngest child behavior. Hannah herself was a youngest child, but had always felt like Christopher was her age rather than an older brother. For the most part, they had gotten along pretty well, but there had been a period when he had wanted to be left alone with his friends and had forbidden her from coming within 10 meters of him when they were outside the house. Hannah hadn't even been allowed to take the same bus as he did. And then their mother had died, and he hadn't been much of a brother at all. The traffic moved freely for the first 10 or so minutes, but they ran into traffic just before the turnoff from the bridge. A red Fiat seemed to have broken down and a line had formed behind it. Hannah used her blue lights to get past. What? She said. Lena has something to tell us, and there's a risk she might not hang around if we take too long. I didn't say anything. Once they were off the bridge, Hannah continued to Morbalonga. She had no trouble finding Lena. The girl was standing directly opposite the school on Olanskin, right where she had said she would be, wearing jeans and a dark blue hoodie that was several sizes too big for her. The style reminded Hannah of what Joel had been wearing. Her strawberry blonde hair was tied up in a bun. No one said much on the drive back to Guardby. Hannah liked to be able to read people's body language during interviews, and Eric clearly felt the same way. Hannah glanced out at Rebecca's house as they passed. The blinds were down, but there was a car in the drive that hadn't been there yesterday. Petrie's, perhaps, or possibly Rebecca's mother. She pulled up into Lena's driveway a little too sharply, scraping against one of the bushes to the side. Eric tensed, but he didn't say a word, probably because Lena with them. A few weeks after Hannah first got her driver's license, she had renamed Rebecca's mailbox. Her driver's license had represented freedom to her and still did. It was as though all her ambitions disappeared the moment she got behind a wheel, and the mailbox was one unfortunate consequence of that. Her grandmother had paid for her driver's license as an 18th birthday present. The front door opened and Ulrika came out. She stood awkwardly waiting for them, unsure of what to do with her hands. Lena squirmed away from her attempt at a hug. Though they didn't want the mother to be present during their interview, Hannah was glad Ulrika was home. The girl might need her support afterward. 15 was such a sensitive age. They sat down in the kitchen purely because it had a door they could close. Ulrika was waiting outside, having tried and failed to join them while they talked to their daughter. Lena filled a glass with water and quickly drank it down, refilling it and taking a seat. "So tell us," said Hannah, "what was it you thought we should know?" "Something happened last week," Lena replied, gripping the glass. They waited for her to go on, but she didn't speak. "What happened?" asked Eric. "I went with Joel to pick up Molly from school. His mom couldn't do it. That happens sometimes when she can't leave the studio." "Okay, and what happened?" Eric asked. It was clear Lena was going to need help saying everything she wanted to say. "Fanny pushed Molly up against the wall. It looked really nasty. She had her arm on her throat, and Molly's face looked so strange, like she couldn't breathe." "Who is Fanny?" "Fanny Brokeberg, a girl who used to be in Joel's class. Her gang hangs around Guardby School sometimes. They're not doing well in high school, so I guess terrifying the little kids makes them feel big." "Very mature," said Eric, provoking a smile from Lena. Like so much else in Hannah's life, there was a before and an after when it came to school. She had been happy in elementary and middle school, but her high school experience had largely revolved around hiding Lars drinking. She had borrowed clothes from his wardrobe when she grew out of her own, pretending they were what she wanted to wear. She had behaved in class and made sure she got good grades in an attempt to prevent anyone from asking how things were at home. Christopher caused enough trouble for the both of them. After her mother's funeral, she'd had just one aim, to make it look like what was left of the family wasn't on the verge of collapse. She had even lied to her grandmother, despite going to stay with her some weekends whenever she needed a break. She used to love waking up and tiptoeing out into the kitchen to sit on the old-fashioned wooden daybed, listening to the radio with Granny and waiting for the bread to bake. "What happened then?" she asked. "Joel ran over and pulled Fanny off her, and she went completely crazy, started hitting him and yelling that he'd regret it." Lena let out a sob. "I don't know how he dared. Joel is practically the same height as me, and Fanny's so much bigger. One of the teachers eventually came out and broke it up." "Why did Fanny attack Molly?" asked Hannah. "She's always doing that kind of thing. Molly cried almost the whole way home." "And the teacher just let everyone go?" said Hannah, unable to hide her agitation. "Yeah, why wouldn't he? No one told him anything." Lena shook her head. Hannah remembered what school was like, of course, the name-calling and the fighting, the teachers who saw but didn't care. It was just that she had assumed things must have changed since then. "What's the teacher's name?" she asked. "Isaiah Olin, but he's cool." Hannah wasn't done with the subject, but Eric got in before her. It's good that you're telling us this." Lena nodded, but she seemed to be struggling to believe him. "Fanny was really pissed off with Joel afterward," she said. "She probably thought she'd messed up her image or something. Anyway, it was like she decided to break him. I know she threatened Molly, too." "Did Joel mention any of this on Tuesday?" "No, I could see something was bothering him, but he ducked the question when I asked. I should have." Hannah reached out and placed her hand on Lena's, quickly removing it when she realized the girl didn't appreciate the gesture. Instead, she took out her phone and brought up the image of the blonde woman from the rest area. Lena claimed not to recognize her. "Does Fanny sell hash?" asked Eric. "I don't think so," said Lena. "Do you know anyone who does?" "No." The glass of water in her hand shook as she took a sip. "What are you so afraid of?" Hannah asked. Lena glanced at the door, pausing before she answered. "I think Fanny might come after me now." "Why?" Lena took another sip of water. "Because I was there when she was threatening Joel. That's the only reason she needs."